One of the biggest stories in Utah in 2009 was the Nutty Putty Cave Disaster, which resulted in the tragic death of John Jones, a father, husband, and son. 59 years after its discovery, Nutty Putty Cave was sealed to the public, with the body of John Edward Jones still trapped inside, entombed forever. This is the true story of the Nutty Putty Cave Disaster. Nutty Putty Cave, a hydrothermal cave located in Utah County, Utah, just west of Utah Lake, was first explored by Salt Lake City resident Dale Green in 1960. Rancher friends of Green had noticed warm vapors coming out of a hole in the ground and told Green, who was known for exploring caves. With a few friends in tow, Green explored the system and named the cave Nutty Putty Cave after the slick clay found in the cave, covering those who explored it. The cave contains over 14,000 feet, or 430 meters, of tunnels, chutes, and crevices, all accessible by a small hole at the surface. According to the official but now defunct website for Nutty Putty Cave, the cave was receiving nearly 5,000 recreational visitors each year by 2005. This made Nutty Putty Cave one of the most popular caving destinations in all of Utah, and also one of the most dangerous. Multiple explorers over the years were trapped in the cave, requiring rescue. None of these events, however, compare to the tragedy that occurred on November 29, 2009. John Edward Jones was born on January 21, 1983, in Sandy, Utah. He graduated from Dixie High School in 2001 and would go on to attend Brigham Young University. Upon graduating, John was accepted into the medical school program at the University of Virginia, studying to become a pediatric cardiologist. He met his wife, Emily, while attending Brigham Young University and would marry in 2006. At the time of his death, they had a 14-month-old daughter and were expecting another child. The Young family came back from Virginia to Utah to visit their families for Thanksgiving. John enjoyed spelunking, or exploring caves, as did many other members of his family. So, on the evening of Tuesday, November 24, 2009, John, along with his brother Josh and several friends and family members, entered Nutty Putty Cave to explore its narrow passageways. At 8 p.m., John and the group entered the cave and made their way through the small passageways. After exploring a large chamber called the Big Slide, John and his brother Josh, along with two friends, decided to split off from the main group to find a challenge. That challenge being the tight but manageable passage called the Birth Canal. The group decided to split up. John picked a waist-high hole to explore. Armed with a caving headlamp purchased for him by his father, John went into the hole head first. Unbeknownst to John, however, this was not the birth canal. It was, in fact, a non-explored area of the cave known as the corkscrew, named this due to its tightness. Many previous cavers had noted that only the tightest of contortionists would be able to make their way through the corkscrew. John pushed himself along with his fingers, his hips, his stomach, inching his way forward through the tight crevice. As he continued, there was no place big enough to turn his body around. John, however, believing he was in the birth canal, kept moving forward. John approached a fissure in the rock that dropped nearly straight down in front of him. The fissure appeared to widen out of the bottom, letting John believe that he would have enough room to turn around and make his way back the way he had came. This crevice, however, was only 10 inches wide. John likely sucked in his chest, sliding his torso over the lip of the rock and down into the crevice. When his chest expanded with his breath, however, John became stuck. He struggled to free himself, pushing and squeezing, twisting and turning, and only slid deeper down to the fissure, now only 8.5 inches wide. Instead of widening at the bottom, the fissure was almost closed. John cried out for his family for help. John's brother, Josh, realizing that John was missing, started to make his way through the hole that John had entered earlier. He crab-crawled, feet first between the cramped and muddy walls. By the time Josh got to the corkscrew and saw John, he became stuck himself. Panic started to settle in. Josh could now see his brother John, his feet sticking out, the rest of his body swallowed by rock. The two brothers, both devoutly religious, were now trapped underneath the earth. Miraculously, Josh worked himself free and wrapped his feet around John's calves. With all his might, Josh pulled his brother. John's body slowly started to inch up, and it seemed as though he would make it out, but as there was nothing for John to hold on to, he slipped back into the crevice the second Josh let go. Josh knew the situation was dire. They needed search and rescue teams right away. Josh crawled slowly back up to the surface and called 911. When he confirmed that help was on the way, Josh headed back into the hole to be with his brother. They made small talk, trying to get their minds out of this dangerous situation. They sang church hymns, talked about their relationships, their careers, their desires, and once again, when all else failed, they prayed. "I am so sorry, Father. Just get me out of here. Save me from my wife and my kids." After nearly an hour of waiting, rescuers were at the surface. At the surface, trauma physician Doug Murdoch arrived on scene. When rescuers told him that John was trapped nearly upside down, Murdoch knew that John Jones did not have much time to survive. When upside down for that period of time, blood and fluids would begin to start pooling into John's brain and lungs. His circulation would begin to slow, his capillaries would begin to leak, and toxins would build up in his blood. There are few recorded studies of the long-term effects of being stuck upside down, but Murdoch suspected that John Jones may have less than 10 hours to live in the current circumstances. Rescue operations worker Susie Matola began to inch her way through the narrow limestone tunnel that John had entered. The heat and humidity sweltered, her clothes caked in soft brown clay. Ropes were tied around her ankles in the event that she too got stuck in the narrow corkscrew. After what seemed like hours, but in reality was only 20 minutes, Susie's headlights revealed a pair of black and blue running shoes sticking out of the narrow crevice at the end of the tunnel. Susie reached John Jones at 12:30 a.m. He had been stuck for more than 3 hours, upside down, one arm forced backwards, the other bent underneath his chest. "Hi, John. My name's Susie. How's it going?" "Hi, Susie. Thanks for coming, but I really want to get out of here," said John. "Oh, no worries, John. You're going to be out of here, lickety-split." Susie knew what it was like to be alone in the depths and darkness of Nutty Putty Cave. She too had been stuck in it once before, and was determined to help John escape as well. Susie tied a rope from John to the rest of the team at the tunnel's entrance. The rescue team pulled, but could not move John. The friction of the rope against the stone of the tunnel was too great. Susie tried to help John shift positions, but she could not lift him. She stretched her water bottle down to his right arm, hoping that the water flowing down from his arm may reach a little bit to his mouth. She told him jokes, she asked him about his family, and, when running out of conversation, they both began to pray. The two began to talk about faith, and Susie could hear John's voice becoming nasally, his breathing becoming more labored. She could hear that his lungs were filling up with fluid. After 2 hours of effort, but what seemed like an eternity, Susie had done all that she was able to do. She crawled out of the tight passageway for another rescuer to take her place. The rescue team then attempted to rig a pulley system physically anchored to the tunnels of the wall to reduce friction of the rope against the rock. This, however, took time. Each trip into the tunnel to attach a pulley to the wall took nearly an hour. According to the trauma physician at the surface, John only had mere hours to live. The rescue team began to exhaust all options. They ordered 6 gallons of vegetable oil to help slide John out, and even considered blowing through the rock with explosives. But they quickly determined that neither option would work. Drills and chisels then arrived to help break up the rock, but the equipment was too large to get near John, and the equipment they were able to get through was too small and too slow. In an attempt to widen the tunnel, it took over 90 minutes to get through just under 6 inches of rock, proving to them that drilling was not a viable option. They then rigged a rope to John's body. They pulled and pulled and pulled again. Slowly, John was inching out of the dark hole. It seemed like everything was moving perfectly, but when John's feet hit the tunnel's low ceiling, he screamed in pain. His heart was struggling to pump blood to his legs. The rescue team were then hit with a horrific realization. The angle of the tunnel and John's body meant they could not bring John out of the hole without breaking his legs, the shock of which, in his weakened state, would likely kill him. On top of all that, the pulley system was beginning to fail. It would have to be rebuilt in order for them to try again. Nearly 12 hours had passed with John Edward Jones upside down underneath the earth. Ryan Short, a member of Utah Cave Rescue, entered the passage where John was trapped. "Help me get out of here. Why did you guys put me in here?" John asked Ryan. John was beginning to lose his grasp on reality. John would suddenly change from calm conversation to helpless thrashing around in sheer panic. Ryan, in an effort to calm John down, asked him about his family, about John's wife, their young daughter, their life in Virginia, and their baby on the way. A radio was brought down to John, tethered by 400 feet of cable to the entrance of the tunnel. John's wife, Emily, shouted down to him. "I love you. Just keep fighting," she told her husband. John replied back, "I love you. I love you. Tell Lizzie I love her. I'll get out and I'll come see you." 19 hours had now passed with John trapped upside down. 15 pulleys had been drilled into the walls of Nutty Putty Cave, ropes strung through them and attached to John. They began to pull again, 8 rescue workers working as one. John slowly inched forward. Ryan began to hope that they would be able to get John out, but suddenly, everything went black. When Ryan awoke, his jaw was broken, his eye was swelling, and blood was everywhere. The stone arch that the pulley was attached to had shattered under the pressure of the rope, sending heavy metal equipment at Ryan's face. John had slipped back into the hole, again landing on his head. Back at the tunnel's entrance, the 8 rescue workers pulling on the rope crashed to the ground, one of which was Ryan's father, Dave. Injured, Ryan exited the tunnel, and Dave took his place to be with John. "Are you okay? I'm going to die right here. I'm not going to get out of here, am I?" "We're going to get you out." "Is Ryan okay? I think he's hurt really bad." John then fell silent. Dave called out to him, but got no response. Frantically, Dave drilled a new hole and got a new pulley into place. While attempting to exit the cave himself, Dave also got stuck, but after 15 minutes of effort, he was able to get himself out and reach the surface. Upon exiting, Dave told a Utah County Sheriff's Lieutenant, quote, "He's dying right now. He has a heartbeat, but he's had difficulty breathing before I got there. You can't get someone down there before he dies." Brandon Kowalis, another member of Utah Cave Rescue and one of the original mappers of Nutty Putty Cave, crawled into the cave to take Dave's place. Brendan had telecoms, so Emily, John's wife, could speak to him. Quote, "I know you've been pushing so hard for so long. Why don't you just rest a minute and take a break, then you can push again." John did not respond. He was unconscious. He never woke up. John suffered cardiac arrest due to the prolonged exposure of being trapped upside down. At 11:56 p.m. on November 25th, John Woodward Jones was pronounced dead. The family was in shock, and yet had to deal with another tragedy. The rescue team would not be able to remove John's body. With John no longer alive to help the team, it would be nearly impossible for his body to be removed without risking the lives of the team members further. The cave would have to become John's final resting place. Despite some pushback from the caving community, Nutty Putty Cave was sealed permanently with 30 yards of concrete and explosives on the 2nd of December, 2009, ensuring that no further tragedy would ever occur in the cave. A plaque was placed at the cave's former entrance, memorializing John. John loves the outdoors. He loves Utah. He loves wide open space. "It is so fitting that it's his spot now," said John's widow, Emily. "I just know that he's still watching out for us, that our family is still a family." On June 15th of the following year, Emily and John's son was born. He was named John. Thank you for watching today's video. It really means a lot to me. If you have any other suggestions for cases I could look into, please leave them in the comments, as I'm always interested. And lastly, if you or someone you love is dealing with a mental health crisis, please know that resources are available, links to which are in the video description. Thank you, and until next time, be safe.